Right now, the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, is delivering a national address. This as his troops, Russian troops, continue their invasion of Ukraine. We've been listening to the speech, and so far, Putin says this war is justified in his view, and he says, contrary to what we have seen, that it is going according to plan. Let's get straight to CNN's international diplomatic editor, Nick Robertson. He's live in Moscow. Nick, what else are we hearing from the Russian president?
Yeah, John, there was one strange thing about this broadcast for President Putin. He's normally really in control. He looked angry. We've seen him looking that way over the past week or so. But getting towards the end of his speech, he sort of finished and didn't seem sure if he was finished, got up, and then sat back down again, and then told the audience here that the war was going well, everything's on track, it's all up to speed. But I think the thrust of this speech was all about trying to keep Russians on track with him and with his war. He spoke about giving posthumous medals to those soldiers who were killed, 498, according to the Russian military. That was announced yesterday. So here you have, a day after, only 7 days into the war as well, Putin handing out posthumous medals by name and saying that any family of a soldier who was killed would get $65,000. Any family of a soldier injured, and that soldier presumably would get $40,000. Also saying that there will be insurance for the soldiers. Presumably he means in a medical context here. So Putin really trying to keep the country on board, even while he's saying it's going on track. The evidence, of course, we see and hear, it's not.
Putin just made a statement in Moscow in which he said, quote, "I will never give up my belief that Russians and Ukrainians are one people, despite the fact that part of Ukrainians were threatened and tricked by the Nazi nationalistic propaganda." What's your response, and what does that tell you about his mindset?
It's sickening, and it's echoing what his speech he gave before the violence began of what he plans for Ukraine. I wouldn't have said this maybe 3 or 4 days ago, but now and many others I talked to here are beginning to think that he's after invasion of the entire country. And as one of your previous analysts said, he already looks like he's building that land bridge, that coveted land bridge between the Russian mainland and Crimea, so it doesn't starve the water and other supplies. But you will see, Allison, because of this, these types of statements, a big increase in the number of people leaving the country. Right now we're up to about 1 million. That could go up to 5 million. I am heartened by the fact that my government, the Trudeau government, just a few hours ago announced a unlimited resettlement program for Ukrainians. They can come to Canada under eased rules and stay for a long time. And that's exactly what other countries like the United States need to do, because it doesn't look like, sadly, there's going to be a quick end to this. And just one more point, as was pointed out, a lot of women and children are getting caught in the crossfire. And I'm telling you things today that are very, very hard for me to say, because I was a spokesperson for UNICEF and other UN agencies. But it really hurts me, it angers me actually, that none of the UN agencies seem to be able to call out the aggressor, Russia, by name. These are agencies that are tasked with saving the lives, protecting women and children. And if they're not willing to criticize Russia or Mr. Putin by name, we have a big problem on our hands.
But Michael,
I don't remember this.
But what do you mean by that? How are they, using kid gloves with Russia and Putin?
So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was on the WHO press conference. The Director General was speaking. I was the first one up to ask a question. We did this virtually. And I said, why is it that, in my day, we were able to call out the Myanmar generals who are warring sides and wherever they're in the world. And today, you can't seem to bring yourself to name Russia or Mr. Putin. They call them the warring sides. They use language like that. And the answer to it was, well, we don't want to get involved in politics. But I think if big organizations like WHO or UNICEF aren't willing to call out Mr. Putin and Russia by name, who will? These are organizations which were formed to prevent the sort of conflict that is happening right now. And yet, as you say, they're approaching this with kid gloves. It has upset a lot of people who either work or have worked for the organization.
Yeah. Steve, very quickly, President Zelensky of Ukraine thinks that it's not just Ukraine, the entire country, that Putin wants. He's suggesting that Putin will be emboldened if he gets Ukraine and he'll go further. Do you think that's true?
Well, it's certainly something to be concerned about. I mean, remember how this started. We're just helping, Putin said, the Donbas region, which is, being under horrific attack by the Ukrainians, which is, of course, is a lie. So, now he's in all of Ukraine. That's clear. So after that, what's next? The Baltic states? I mean, we do have to think, okay, where are we actually going to stop Putin? And I agree with Michael. People have to stand up. Organizations, companies, governments have to stand up and call him out and say, look, this is it. Enough is enough. You're not going to go any further.